Hey there! So today we are talking about seeds. The question is it time to start planning your fall garden? Absolutely. It does start to be time for fall garden planning about this time in the summer. Is it time to start seeding your fall garden? That depends a little bit more on where you are. I am in zone 7A, so my first frost isn't till the end of October. But I do typically seed inside a few plants for fall, and typically I do that right around, you want these seeds, don't you? Right around the middle to end of July. That's usually the best time for me to get like any of my cold weather brassicas, if I'm doing any violas, anything like that, I'll get it started indoors. So collard greens, kale, broccoli, if I grow broccoli, mustard greens. I start all that inside. Basically, we stay so warm so long into the fall that I can't really start a whole lot direct sown in the ground for the fall garden. If you are in a cooler climate, it may be a bit easier for you. You may be able to plant some things end of August, but that still for me is really, really hot. I do direct sow a few things in the end of August. I actually made a video earlier this year about when to sow everything, and I'll link that in the description because I talk about what I plant at the end of like into September, because that's when I plant some of my greens and things like that. So that's important. But today I wanted to put this video out now, so if you are in my growing zone or you're planning a fall garden, this is like your reminder that you do need to start thinking about the fall garden. And if you are going to start anything inside, if you are going to start this is going to be hard for them to hear. Let me give you something that's less loud, maybe. If you're going to start anything inside, like if you are going to start collard greens, broccoli, cabbage, start it soon. Start it mid to end of July. And I will go through with you everything that I'm planting to start indoors as of right now. I kind of pulled all of my things because I just like to start, well, I'm just going to start with a lot of stuff, and then we'll see once I actually get seed sowing how much and of all of these things I actually end up starting indoors, but we'll at least get a little bit of it going. Okay, so let's see. I pulled out just all of my violas and pansies. So a big part of my fall garden is going to be decorative. I found that for me, violas and pansies just are some of the best things for me to grow in a fall winter garden because they will bloom all winter long and they are super just gorgeous, and I don't know, I love them. So I kind of went crazy and I realized that I ordered like a lot of violas and pansies. I'm not quite sure how many of each variety I am going to do, but my thought is to do a bunch of my containers with just like a couple plants of one variety, so there's a bunch of fun color blocking throughout the garden. And you know, I want to fill, basically I have 4 2x4 raised beds and I want to just kind of fill them with violas. So I also will say, before I get into the varieties, I also will say that with violas and pansies, for me, it's better to plant them in the fall garden because they'll bloom in the fall, they'll bloom all winter, they'll bloom early spring. And then by the time we get into April, May, I'm ready for summer things. I want my summer annuals. And last winter, I started some violas and pansies inside in January. They did beautifully, they grew beautifully. I planted them out, they flowered beautifully, but they were kind of peaking like right at that end of April time period. And I just was ready for summer plants. I just didn't really want the violas anymore. So they're a big fall winter plant for me in this area. And so that's where I'm really focusing in on. Okay, a million varieties. We'll start with the Arkwright Ruby. I grew these in the spring. They were super pretty, a really nice kind of like reddish brown. They looked a little bit more like burgundy red to me in my garden, but they were absolutely gorgeous and did really well, grew super heartily. They are a zone 4 to 9, they're a perennial. So I could try to just grow these perennial like all through the year, which might be interesting. Full sun, cool weather, beautiful viola. And then these brush strokes violas are also pretty. Same kind of like antique-y tones. These grew really well. They were some of the first to flower for me in the spring, and they were just as stunning as they look on the packet. They say this is, cool weather edible. Of course, violas and pansies are also edible. So that's another, super fun part about growing them. You can throw them in a salad and they are not necessarily super delicious, but they're cute and they add a lot of color. They are also pretty easy to start to seed. Kind of go a little slowly at the beginning, and then once you plant them out into ground, they take off and are great. Then I got a bunch of new ones to me, so I haven't started this one before, but this is the Leta Fire. There's a whole bunch in this Leta family. And so these are a dwarf variety. So they have dime size petals. So they're a little bit smaller, and the plant is 3 to 4 inches tall. So this will be one that could be like at the front of a raised bed or the front of a border. Also super cute for a container. All violas that I've had do really well in containers, so I don't see any issue with that. But that's kind of cool because they're just a little bit of a shorter variety. I will say that both these brush strokes and the Arkwright both did stretch. I had them in kind of part sun. They did stretch a little bit. They were a bit taller. Then I have a cute Floral Days Morning Dew, which is adorable. So by color, this one gets to be about 8 inches in height, and so they do recommend it for containers as well. I think it definitely looks like a perfect little container plant. With all of these, they will sometimes self-seed. So they do spread out a little bit. I do have a couple volunteers growing in the garden right now. That is something to know. But I do like to try to deadhead my violas as much as possible, because violas do, oh, bless you. Baby girl sneezing. Violas do benefit quite a bit from deadheading. They will look better, and the more you deadhead, the more they will bloom. Then I got this antique. Oh, I think these are really pretty. Again, another dwarf plant. So I guess all the ones in the Leta family are all dwarf plants, but super cute. And those are just like the sweetest little colors. There's lots, sorry if you hear baby girl in the background, she's just talking. There's lots of different colors, and you start getting into the violas and pansies and you start really looking at them, you'll see there's tons of colors out there. I had to get the Chicky Chicks because I felt like that was kind of classic, and there is something about the blue that is really pretty and classic. This one's a little bit less cold hardy. It's a perennial zone 6 to 9, so not quite as cold hardy, but it is a pansy. I do find that violas tend to be more cold hardy than pansies. The violas will really bloom all the way through the winter for me, and occasionally if we get a couple of cold spells, like really cold temps, it will take out the pansies for a little while. They always flush back and keep blooming once it warms up again, but just something to know. So these are cute. Technically a pansy, but kind of a mix of colors. And then we have the Bolas Black, and I grew these last fall, and I started a few of them in the spring, and they grew really, really well for me. 6-inch tall plants, really fun black little blooms. And these are really cute for, I know, you want to come up here. Here you go. These are really cute for like a Halloween container. That's what I did last fall. I did a couple Halloween containers with black violas, and it was really fun. Some of them turn a little bit purple, but they're mostly the dark black. And then I did get a straight up Purple Perfection viola. This is a zone 5 through 9 that is perennial in 6-inch tall plants. Beautiful blue, of course, edible like all the violas. And I like them because they're just kind of simple, but they have that little bit of yellow in the center. I thought these would be really cute, like pops of real true blue purple, right, popping in a container like all by themselves, or mixed in with other things. And then I had to get some of the green ones. These are Envy, of course, because they are green. So olive green with splashes of coffee. And yeah, another really cute. Beaver Creek just has so many pansies and violas. They're really on the same wavelength with me, loving pansies and violas. I got this really pretty Minola Heart Aqua, which is kind of a blue, but it has some yellow in there. Zone 4 to 9 is a perennial, or of course you can grow these all as annuals. Combination of mustard green and aqua blue. So I thought that sounded, yeah, very kind of antique, which I think is a really pretty look in the garden. And I'm kind of doing more of those like antique apricot-y kind of tones. These will be great. Then I got another one of the dwarf Laertas. These are the wine. So a pretty purple boysenberry with a yellow eye. And one of my favorite are the tiger eye violas. And the tiger ones are usually like really vigorous growers for me and some of the earliest to flower. So I have really good luck with them just producing and flowering. So a really nice one and very pretty and a really nice yellow color. And then the historic mix, these did well for me as well. I grew them this spring. They did really nicely. They're perennial zone 4 to 9 and lovely mix. So these are all saying full sun to partial shade. And because most of my garden is honestly partial shade, I don't have a lot of full sun. Most of these I grow in part shade and they do really well. Then the Carnation Gold Pansy. So I don't know if pansies are a little bit different than violas because I don't have quite as good a luck with just germination growing. They're just not quite as vigorous. And so these were the only ones that I grew this spring that kind of didn't take off for me. They just weren't as vigorous growers. The germination was not quite as great. And I think it just might be that pansies are a little different than violas, and the violas tend to just go for it. I mean, violas just grow so beautifully. Sorry about all the noise. Got baby girl down here with me and she is started crawling and now she's just crawling all over the place and into everything. Okay, then the last viola I got was just the classic Johnny Jump Up, and I grew these as well, and they were very hardy, very easy to grow. They are so cute. They are just like, you know, they're just the classic when it comes to violas, so you always have to have those. Okay, so violas aside, I don't know how many of each ones I'm going to grow, but that's just my collection, and I'm going to pick out as many of those as I can possibly get started and start those. Then we have some of the vegetables. So I do always do quite a bit of lettuce in containers. I love to grow container lettuce. I'm not going to grow a ton of fall crops because I am really, that was just an extra Johnny Jump Up seed packet I had. I'm really focusing on the violas. I just want to fill the garden with violas and kind of take it a little bit easy as far as growing tons and tons of fall veggies. But I will start in like direct sow, arugula, and lettuce and spinach. I will start inside these things. So I'm going to try the Georgian Southern collards. Usually I do Morris heading collards, and I just wanted to try something different. They looked really pretty, and they're supposed to be super easy to grow. They're very cold tolerant, and also supposed to be heat tolerant. So maybe they'll do well in our fall. That's the tricky thing, is I will probably plant these out like end of September, early October. Well, maybe even mid-September. And so a little bit of heat tolerance is going to help because I don't want them to bolt before we get into the winter and they can actually like be happy and grow. So we will try these, and I like that look for the collard greens. I think it's really pretty. I am going to try a little bit, like 1 or 2 Romanesco broccoli, just because I have these, and I will, like, the shape of this broccoli is so beautiful and interesting. I will see how they do, since obviously this is an old seed packet, but I did grow these back in 2019, and I did get one of the Romanesco heads, which is pretty good for me because it can be a little bit hard with our temperatures to get like a good broccoli harvest. And what it did is it grew over the winter and then produced its head in the spring. So that's kind of what I'm expecting will happen, but I'm going to try a couple of these and we'll just see what happens. The broccolis and cabbages, they're just hard for me. Every year I plant cabbage and it never heads up. I never get that head. Since I did get a head of Romanesco broccoli, I think I'll give it a try again and see how it does. I also do really love bok choy and pak choy, so I'm going to do the pak choy white stem, which is supposed to be a little bit better with heat and handles like hotter temperatures. So again, hello. So again, since I'm planting it out while it's still pretty warm, I thought maybe that would be nice. And it's just about the size, the personal size of bok choy. The pak choy is quick developing, so that should be pretty fun. I don't really know much about it. I've never grown it. And then I got these tiny variety, an extra dwarf, a miniature bok choy as a thank you seed from Baker Creek. So I thought maybe I'd do a couple of these in containers, or do some of these like little containers like this, because I think it would just be kind of fun and really pretty as a little, because I have a few like small containers, so I kind of need something tiny to put in them. And then dazzling blue kale, my absolute favorite kale. I always have to have dazzling blue kale. It is such a great kale. It is super, super cold tolerant, so it does better than all my other things with cold tolerance. And then it also, it actually handles like my summer temperatures. I actually have some kale that's out there growing still because we've had such a cold year. The dazzling blue kale is still growing and looking pretty good. So that'll be interesting. And then I'm going to do white wax onions, a small onion. So they're like a 3 to 4 inch onion. They can be harvested early, which is nice because I rarely ever get my onions all the way to full size for a harvest. So we will try that. And they're white skin, juicy and sweet. We're gonna give them a go for fall winter garden and just kind of see what happens. I planted onion sets last winter and they all got attacked by boars in the spring, and I didn't get any garlic or any onions. So I figured maybe I can plant these, get a few started inside, plant them out at the end of August, early September, maybe get a harvest. They are 65 days to maturity, so there's kind of some potential there, especially if I get them started indoors in July. All of these things are going to be started mid to end July. You can't have any of these seed packets because they're open. They're open, so you can't play with them. I'm going to do a few more of my apple blossom snapdragons. I have these growing in the garden right now, and they are so pretty. So I'm going to start some more and see if I can get them established in the fall, and then maybe they'll bloom even earlier in the spring. That's sort of my thought. But they're this like really pretty kind of like light pinky, appley, and white. They're really beautiful. And my favorite lettuce, the Frauenschluss lettuce. I love this lettuce. It is so yummy. It's just like a yummy, soft, buttery romaine. And I thought maybe I'd do a few heads. I don't usually grow head lettuce. I usually do containers with baby greens in them, and I will certainly do that. But I thought maybe I'd just make a little bit of space for my favorite lettuce and try to do a couple. You can't have it. You can't have it. Come back here. A couple heads of my favorite lettuce. Now, what she's holding right now are wasabi radish, which I need to get away from her before she breaks it. I may try to start some of that. And then also this would be a direct sow, some royal burgundy bush beans. I'll probably plant some beans here into the end of the year as well, mid-July. But those would be outdoor. I don't have a lot of luck with radishes in the fall garden, but these are a daikon radish, and they just look really cool because they're hopefully not all crunched up and chewed up now, but they're like a sort of a wasabi, super spicy flavor. I thought maybe my husband, he really likes radishes, would like them, and so they'll take a little bit longer than your other radishes to get growing. They're 60 days to maturity, but maybe we can get them growing into the fall. Maybe we'll pop them in. I might just start them indoors in July and see if I can get them started, because it's obviously cooler inside, and then plant them out, which I know you're not don't usually do with radishes, but I'm always up for an experiment. So anyways, those are my kind of fall plans right now. Other than direct sowing my lettuce, spinach, arugula containers, I don't know how much more I'm going to be direct sowing. Typically, the things that I start indoors are the ones that do best anyways, and since we're focusing on violas, we need to get that started inside. So anyways, those are the plans for the fall garden. I've got a couple weeks now, and then I will get it all started, and I will share that process with you as well. But I am going to go play with baby girl because she is busy, as I said, crawling around. It is a whole new world now. And I will talk to you again soon. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.